Chapter 7, From Lawyer to Judge. President Jimmy Carter, who took office in 1977, noticed something lopsided about the federal courts. There were 97 male judges and only one woman. The president began a search for well-qualified female candidates to balance the score. One name kept coming up: Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So in 1980, Carter made Ruth a federal judge on a circuit court. Not in New York, in Washington, D.C. What an honor for Ruth! Her life changed in major ways. Ruth had to stop teaching, and she could no longer argue cases as a lawyer. Instead, she would sit on the judge's bench in front of lawyers and rule on their cases. Her personal opinions wouldn't matter anymore. To be fair and just, a judge must decide cases based on facts alone. Ruth and Marty left New York City, their home for so many years, and moved to the nation's capital. Marty took a new job teaching law at Georgetown University. At cocktail parties that the Ginsburgs attended, guests automatically reached to shake Marty's hand when the host introduced Judge Ginsburg. Marty had to explain that his wife, not he, was the judge. Did Marty feel jealous? Did he mind leaving his old job and following Ruth to D.C.? Not one bit. I have been supportive of my wife since the beginning of time. She has been supportive of me, Marty said. It's not sacrifice, it's family. Marty was as confident as ever about his role. In a well-known photo, he posed in his chef's apron beside his wife, who wore a judicial robe. For the next 13 years, Ruth proved herself a fair-minded judge. She ruled on cases in a group of 3 judges. Behind the scenes, Ruth worked hard to get the other judges to agree on verdicts and to speak with one voice. Another huge turn in Ruth's life came in 1993. An opening had just come up on the Supreme Court. President Bill Clinton was looking for a new justice to fill the slot. Ruth was too shy to brag about her accomplishments, but Marty wasn't. He did everything possible to make sure President Clinton heard about Ruth's remarkable work. It landed her an interview with the president. After talking to Ruth about the law for just a few minutes, President Clinton knew he had found the right person for the job. Federal courts. A federal law is a law that applies to everybody in the United States. Making counterfeit money, for instance, is a federal crime. When a person or a group breaks a federal law or goes against the Constitution, the case is heard in a federal court. If someone breaks a state law, the case goes to a state court instead. The United States has 3 kinds of federal courts. You can think of them set up like a triangle. At the base are district courts, 94 altogether. If a federal law is broken, the case goes to a district court in that state. A jury decides the case. Lawyers who lose can ask for an appeal. That means the cases will be heard by the next level of courts, a circuit court. This is the kind of court that Ruth served on. Circuit courts are the middle layer of the triangle. There are only 13 circuit courts spread out across the nation. Cases are decided by a group of 3 judges, not by juries. What if a circuit court disagrees with the verdict of the district court? Lawyers can then ask the Supreme Court to settle the disagreement. The Supreme Court sits at the top of the triangle. Its verdict is final. It was nearly midnight that night when Ruth got a call. President Clinton was on the phone. He told Ruth the extraordinary news. She was his choice to become the next justice on the Supreme Court of the United States. This is the greatest honor any American lawyer or judge can receive. The next day, in front of news cameras at the White House Rose Garden, President Clinton introduced Ruth to the world. He praised her as a path-breaking attorney, one of our nation's best judges, and a person of immense character. Then a beaming Ruth stepped up to the microphone. Her eyes sparkled behind violet-tinted glasses. A silk scarf tied back her usual neat ponytail, and her mother's pin, the one she'd worn to every Supreme Court hearing, shone on her jacket. Ruth thanked several people, especially Marty, my best friend and biggest booster. In closing, she thanked her mother, the bravest and strongest person I have ever known. I pray that I may be all that she would have been had she lived in an age when women could aspire and achieve, and daughters are cherished as much as sons. Moved by her words, the president wiped a tear from his cheek. One more hurdle lay ahead before Ruth could take her place on the bench. The Senate still had to confirm her nomination. 4 days of grilling followed. Ruth appeared calm and confident. She answered the senators' questions openly and honestly, even on thorny topics. "I hope my answers please the Senate," she said, "but in the end, I am what I am." Ruth also talked openly about her life. She told the senators she was a Brooklyn native, born and bred. She related her parents' immigrant past, and she described the hurt of seeing the anti-Jewish sign as a child. Grateful for the United States' freedoms, she said, "What has happened to me could happen only in America." Ruth won over Democrats and Republicans alike. With resounding approval, the Senate voted in her favor, 96-3. On August 10, 1993, President Clinton swore in Ruth as a Supreme Court justice. Marty held the Bible for Ruth as she gave her oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. One of the first to welcome Ruth to the bench was Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to ever serve on the Supreme Court. O'Connor was overjoyed to have a sister-in-law.